Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the College Info Geek podcast. What's up, man?
Yo.
It's been a while since we podcasted.
That's what happens when you responsibly batch things.
That's right. That's what happens when you get efficient.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about this the other day. Have you ever thought about the fact that you could technically open Microsoft Paint, zoom into the pixel level, and if you knew what you were doing and had enough time, you could make literally any picture by simply just choosing a color in a pixel and then moving to the next pixel and choosing a color. You could make the Mona Lisa. Technically, you could.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that idea where if you had a screen and you generated every possible combination of stuff we could do for like a JPEG, you could see everything in the universe at some point.
Oh, you're right. Actually,
at least through the lens of our eyes.
Yeah, you couldn't do like infrared.
Yeah,
so if you made like an infrared screen and then all the screens, I wonder if there are wavelengths of light we don't even know about. It's like so high we can't even measure it.
I don't know. Probably.
I don't know, man.
Why not?
But on that note, and I do not know if I'm going to be able to link this up in the show notes because I literally can't remember the URL for the life of me, but there is actually a website out there where there is a auto-generated page for every possible combination of alphanumeric characters that I think is like, it's like a page length basically. So I don't know exactly how many characters, but everything that could ever be said or written in that amount of characters, however much a page is on that website.
So they've future stolen a lot of book pages.
Yes. Any book has or will ever be written, anything that has or will ever be said.
All you got to do is include characters that they didn't include. That's how you make sure they didn't get you.
There we go. Yeah, well, we got to make up some new sounds.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
We'll make a phonetic book. Like my next book is going to be written in the IPA phonetic alphabet.
That would be fun.
No one will buy it except for you.
I would like that. That would be like, let's see if I can read this page. It's going to take me. Okay.
I don't think you actually want to do that.
I would read a page.
You'll do one page.
I'm not going to read the book.
I mean, that's pretty close to how I quote unquote, read my Japanese Harry Potter copy.
Oh, yeah. So you sounded stuff out and went, I don't know what that means. I sounded it, though.
Well, I did understand certain things like Hari Pata and things like that.
That is true.
But, yeah. Well, it was nice because what do you call it when they translate the kanji into
furigana?
Furigana, yeah, where they translate the more complicated kanji characters into the easier alphabets, if you want to call them that.
That does make sense because Harry Potter's like
it's a kid's book. Yeah.
At least till you get to the last several.
If you know katakana and if you know hiragana, then you can technically pronounce everything in that edition of the book.
Yeah.
You just won't know what it's saying unless you can translate.
Well, you don't need to know what it says.
It's true.
You feel it.
Fair enough. All right, so we are doing an episode that I've been excited about for a while because I need to get schooled.
All right.
We're going to talk about tea because, number one, we always have tea on this podcast.
Yes.
To the point where we have certain YouTube viewers who will call us out if we do not have tea on an episode.
Oh, well, that's fun.
I know you don't ever see the comments.
Nope.
But
didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, just PSA for everyone out there. Martin doesn't read the comments. Do whatever you want.
I don't know what the internet is. I've never used it before.
Yeah. If I had a podcast where I went back in time and chatted with somebody from like the 1800s once a week and then just published it, it wouldn't be that different from this podcast.
I'm a web developer, but I don't go on the web, you know?
Yeah, like you're very knowledgeable about all the latest web standards and complicated programming languages, but you don't even know about the West Coast Choppers meme. What are you even doing? Oh, you have seen it?
I think I have seen that, actually.
I want to make my own version of it. Everyone keeps trying to make this overcomplicated, like shoving philosophy in it. I just want to make it where every single panel, they're just going like, that's just going to be it.
Yeah. Well, every panel is going to say, this is a meme. Go outside. Love, Martin.
There you go. That's a good one.
I just wrote one.
Let's have that one in the show notes. Somebody else can make it, though. I don't have time. Yeah. All right. But we're going to talk about tea because I think the most cliche college drink is coffee. And it makes sense. Everyone thinks they have to stay up super late, and coffee has plenty of caffeine in it, so everyone drinks coffee. And everyone likes to Instagram their lattes with #blessed and all that kind of stuff. But as you like to remind me all the time, coffee ain't the most popular drink in the world.
No, it's
That's
not.
actually tea.
Well,
Though-
behind water, I think.
Behind water. Yo, what, is it actually? I think we actually Googled this at one point.
I feel like I thought it was the second one, but I don't actually remember now because it's not like I looked at a source with numbers. I looked at people saying that because I didn't actually care how popular it was.
Yeah, maybe we can look it up later out
I
of
don't know.
curiosity. Well, I know for most of recorded history, water was not commonly drank because
Maybe tea's the top then.
it might be. Well, I know now we can purify water.
Well, now the favorite is Pepsi Cola.
There you go. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
For most of recorded history, and there's an excellent book on this topic called The History of the World in 6 Glasses, most people did not drink water because water was usually contaminated.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true.
You had to find a very potable source of it, and unless you had a well or you had like a clear mountain stream, you couldn't trust standing water because there's probably some worm in it that's going to like shoot out of your leg in 30 days or something.
Nature's wonderful.
It's horrible, and I never want to go outside again.
Yeah.
So for the most part, people would find ways to sterilize. I don't know if sterilize is the correct word, but purify their water by turning it into beer because the fermentation process kills off a lot of that bad bacteria, turning it into wine, or boiling it and making coffee or tea.
Fair.
So I would be curious to know if water has in fact overtaken tea as the most popular drink, but ever since the great shipping empires of the mercantile era got their hands on tea, it has become the most popular drink in the world.
Well, it's pretty good.
And that leads us to
it's a
today,
buy.
where we've got...
Also, this is probably done.
Yeah, we should probably
I
do
don't know
it.
how to use that.
I will let you do the honors.
Okay.
Imagine you were like doing one of them TNT plungers.
So it's going to explode. Like I
It
said.
will explode, and this podcast will end. No, so for
Did I do
anybody
it?
not watching this on YouTube, we are using a French press to steep loose leaf tea.
Why not?
So, we thought about this because I own 3 teapots.
working
One
pretty well.
is this small teapot that I have on the table here from Japan, which is great, but it doesn't hold very much tea. So I usually don't use it on the
actually
podcast
working
anymore.
really well.
I know, right? It's actually a pretty
There it is.
sweet thing.
That was a nice, clean setup.
Yeah. So I've got the one teapot, and then we have 2 other ones, one of which has a chipped spout, so I don't use it very often, and it also doesn't have a good mesh area for the loose leaves. And the other one, which people have probably seen this happen on the podcast before, it has a very badly designed spout that just lets like water drip down the side of the teapot and go over the table.
We just end up spilling stuff.
Yeah, it's horrible. So for this episode, I'm like, all right, we got to do tea properly. And what do I come up with but to use a French press, which is a coffee device for tea. But actually, it works really well.
It does seem to have done a decent job.
So, I'm going to let you get into the details of like why you should drink it and the different varieties and everything. But I think that most people, when they think of tea, they think of like a bag that you put in a mug of hot water and you take it out when you're done. But there's also a way to do it, which is you just literally take the leaves and you find a way to steep them in water and then you find a way to remove them.
Yeah.
So a teapot like this, you just put the leaves in the top in this little mesh container, and then you can pull the little mesh container out. It's like a little basket once it's done. But then you got to set it to the side. You have to have something prepared. There's these ones you can get from like Teavana at the mall where they just like, they can be sat on top of your mug and the pressure will release this plate that releases all the water from the bottom. So that's pretty nice. But I had never thought about using a French press before. Works pretty well. You just put the water and the leaves in there, and then when they're done steeping, you press the little mesh disc down. It presses all the leaves to the bottom, and your tea is ready to go.
Yeah.
So I did notice that you used most of the tea, though. I guess like my whole intention for using the French press is so we could each get like 2 glasses out of it per episode.
My only intention was the innovation.
Oh, you just thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that is basically what I know about tea. And before this episode started, I was informed that what I usually choose to drink on this podcast is in fact not tea.
Yeah, you pointed out 3 distinct things, and I was like, you don't drink tea then.
I know that rooibos is not tea.
Yeah.
I knew that was some South African plant.
Yeah, it's a red bush.
I was not aware that chamomile is not tea.
Well,
so,
sometimes it could be mixed with tea, but in this case it was not.
So, school me on tea. How do I get into this, and what are my options?
Okay. So I guess first I in order to answer this question, I went to Panera and I asked myself, how did I get into tea? Because surprisingly, the answer is not because Martin was born super hipster and into Zen stuff because he meditates and does all this nonsense that seems to tie together. I actually came into all that stuff coincidentally in separate ways. And tea I got into while I was working back at my web development job in Urbandale because there was a Panera down the hill and I wanted a warm drink and coffee makes me feel bad. So I got this tea and it was just this Republic of Tea daily green honey ginseng tea.
Okay.
And I loved it because it was warm. It had that slight sweetness from the honey, but it wasn't too sweet or anything. And I accidentally ordered like 10 Republic of Tea tins and then got really into it after that because once you have that much tea in your cupboard, you really need to start to justify it by drinking it.
Or you could be like me and not.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But I do love tea. And
did you
it's
like it
pretty
right
much my
away?
favorite. That particular one I did, yeah.
You did? Okay.
But that
Because,
one
like,
was with the honey, it was a little bit sweet too. So
Gotcha.
it wasn't like, I would say that it depends on what you're used to, whether you're going to, because there are so many different kinds of teas. And if you're into juice or soda or some stuff like that, certain types of teas may be better. If you're into coffee, certain types of teas may be better.
Okay.
And yeah, I guess for me, since that was a slightly sweetened one already, and I was looking for like a calm, relaxing drink, it kind of fit immediately.
Okay, so actually, I think a good precursor question to like how to get into tea is why get into tea.
Yeah.
So like if you already like coffee, why do tea? Or if you already drink Mountain Dew Code Red every single day and play
don't stop, do
World
stop.
of Warcraft with your Doritos, why stop that? Why drink tea instead? Why drink, as I think I said in a video, like dirty leaf water?
Yes, in one of my favorite books, somebody refers to it as spinach water, and that's fine.
That's pretty good.
It's delicious.
Could we steep spinach?
I mean,
that gonna
that's
work?
an herbal infusion. You know, you just put the spinach in there for boiling. Yeah, it'll probably not. I don't know if it'll taste good.
Probably gonna be bad.
I don't think
but-
I want that.
Yeah.
That's not the right kind of thing. So, I guess other than the fact that one makes you cool, you know, it's the first or second most popular drink. Don't you want to join the club? Duh.
I do want to be a cool kid.
Unless you want to be too hipster for the club. But in America, that still puts you in the tea camp because America is really fond of coffee.
Yep. I don't think tea is even near the most popular drink here in America.
Yeah. Well, that's because in America, tea, unless you like already know about it, I think tea is envisioned as like Lipton and like Nestea, just like, or like sweet tea, or it's just like a bunch of low quality black teas that aren't particularly good. Like this is a black tea, but it's a nice Darjeeling. It's a fancy
This
one.
is a black tea?
It's good.
Okay. I actually didn't know that. So I'll ask you all my questions about the different colors of tea and what they mean
Oh yeah.
later. But so for a person like me, when I first started drinking tea, I thought it was disgusting and awful. And
What was your first tea? Out of
Probably-
curiosity. Was it
probably
just
Lipton.
like a
probably just bagged Lipton or something like it. Or so in the past I've tried, so I really like a chai latte. I love chai
Oh yeah,
lattes.
the spices in chai are delicious.
Yeah,
That
so
stuff's good.
Chai tea, right?
Yeah,
And
so
then
that
it's
just
a latte,
mixed
so
with
it's steamed milk.
and stuff.
But then I have bought bagged chai, several varieties before from like the grocery store, and every time I try to I steep it in the water, I pour in some milk, it doesn't taste anything like what you get at the coffee shop.
Do you sweeten it?
So, I've tried putting a little bit of sugar in there, but that still doesn't make it taste the same. So I always wondered if they have some sort of like blend of spices, or if it's just more potent at a coffee shop. I don't know.
Well, they could be sweetening it with something different or more, or the steamed milk may make a difference. I don't know about
could
that.
be
I
it,
don't
yeah.
order latte stuffs anywhere.
That's true. Usually I
But
just pour milk in
chai is a blend involving black tea and a bunch of spices. And with
Okay.
black teas in general, I like this, but for the most part, I like black teas better when you put a type of milk or sweetener in them. I think that
Okay.
brings out the flavor more for me.
there. Yeah, which that's usually how I drink most
Yeah, well,
tea.
that's a lot of black teas that are popular in Western culture, at least, are mixed with stuff. So we drink chai, but we drink it in like latte form.
Yeah.
You know, we mix it with milk or honey. Or you've got Earl Grey, which has got the bergamot in there, which you're adding a separate flavor.
Okay.
I guess other than the gross examples that I don't want to drink because I'm used to other teas now, we drink a lot of flavored or combination things. And Celestial Seasonings, the tea place that's in Boulder with the factory, and it was several of the brands or several of the boxes in your cupboard, they actually produce almost entirely herbal infusions because of where they are. They can't grow tea there.
Oh, okay.
So due to necessity, they grow herbal infusions and not tea. But it turns out that that's really popular here.
Yeah. So what is an herbal infusion exactly? Is it just like any tea-like drink that doesn't have tea in it? Or
yeah,
like what defines
pretty
it?
much, unless the drink is big enough that it gets to be its own category. I wouldn't call so there are a lot of things right now. Tea is just the drink made with the Camellia sinensis plant. It's all tea, black tea, white tea, pu'er, and all green tea. All of it's the same type of plant.
It's all the same plant?
Grown in there's different varieties of the plant, but it's the same plant. And it varies a lot in where it's grown. The climate and the elevation makes a big difference, and whether it's grown in the shade. Because like if it's grown in the shade, if I'm not mistaken, it's that the leaves need to create more chlorophyll and stuff because they need to try to pull more resources out, and it ends up giving them a more sweet and soft taste. A lot of I believe a lot of the green teas that I drink end up being shade grown, possibly Gyokuro, but I don't remember. But basically, where you grow the tea makes a huge difference in how the plant ends up tasting.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's kind of ridiculous because you can get these oolong teas that taste really creamy.
I have some milk oolong
Yeah.
that I got from Kucha and Boulder, and that it smells like buttered movie popcorn when it's dry in the bag. And then I always make it with milk, and it is delicious.
Yeah, I had a milk oolong sometime within the last year. I just got a free sample from Republic of Tea because I had bought so much stuff from them. They send me catalogs. And at first I was wary, because I was like, I don't know if I can drink this. It's got the milk in there. But actually, a real, true milk oolong has nothing to do with milk. It's just happens to be how the plant tastes.
Okay.
The way they grow it is in such a way that it happens to create more of the chemical compounds that make it taste creamy in the end. But when I drank it, it was ridiculous. Actually, that would be a pretty good starter tea, I think.
I think it would, yeah.
Because it's really smooth. It doesn't have a lot of the bitterness that you'll get in some of them.
Now, I guess on that note, you are, at least you believe you are, quite lactose intolerant.
I haven't had dairy in a long time.
And I think you were telling me that
milk anyway.
Certain varieties of milk oolong are actually made with real milk rather than getting a proper milk oolong varietal.
Yes. So the reason for that is that for the most part, to my understanding, the milk oolongs are Taiwanese, I believe, and at some point there wasn't enough production coming from the actual stuff, so then it left an opening in the market for a lot of imitations.
Okay.
So you'll get different kinds of teas. They could still be oolongs, but they've got steamed milk filtered through them or something, and there are some imitations. So sometimes there is dairy,
right?
So it ends up being very confusing. But
so like somebody like you who can't drink milk should probably
I would double
be
check.
careful about which one they buy.
Yeah, I would double check and make sure. But the pure milk oolong is fine.
Okay,
and is
I
also
can't think of any
fantastic.
other tea or herbal infusion that would have dairy in it other than that. Then
Only
maybe like
mixtures
a chocolate
where it
thing?
makes sense, because I've seen some. So like at the Tivana in the mall, because I like free samples of stuff. Why not? But there's one with like white chocolate in it, which that would
make
involve
sense.
dairy. But for the most part, tea isn't going to have that stuff unless
Okay.
you put it in.
Yeah. So getting back to that question of why get into tea, you obviously said like you could be the hipster in America, or you could
but
join
that's
the cool
not
kids
that
worldwide.
compelling for the most part.
Now I'm a coffee lover. I drink like at least 2 cups of coffee a day, and obviously coffee has a fair amount of caffeine in it. So doesn't tea have less caffeine than coffee?
Yes, and it depends on the type of tea.
Okay.
So one of the reasons to get into tea would be that it could be a healthy alternative to whatever you're currently drinking, whether it be a coffee habit that goes too far, or soda or juice or something.
Yeah.
And so green and white teas are going to have a small amount of caffeine, and black teas, I believe, have the most caffeine.
Yep.
All of these still have like 2 to 3 to 4 times less caffeine than a cup of coffee.
Okay.
On average. Obviously, I can't speak for a specific. I don't know how many leaves we put in here. I didn't do any calculations.
But in general, it'll be less, right?
In general, it'll take you like 2 to 4 cups of tea to reach the caffeine of a single cup of coffee.
Okay.
At least with what I'm drinking.
So if you have a caffeine dependency, but you're trying to get off of that, but you still want to have like a nice drink during the day that isn't just water, then tea could be a nice alternative.
Yeah, and it could help wean you off of it, or not even off of it, because it's okay in small amounts. It's not going to kill you as long as you're. Part of the reason that green tea, to my understanding, became popular within Buddhist sects was because they needed to meditate for long periods of time. And tea, while also being a wonderful, calm, peaceful thing to drink, provides enough caffeine to keep you alert, but not enough to make it so that you can't like sit still.
Yeah.
You know, you don't drink a cup of green tea and then get all wired and jump around the room.
Yeah.
But it might make you a little more awake. So it's like it's a nice balance of caffeine.
On that note, a little bit unrelated, I found it very interesting that the South Korean Buddhist monk lady who was on Chef's Table was talking about how there are, I think, 5 flavors that they do not cook with.
Oh, yes, the pungent spices.
Yes, the pungent spices like garlic and I forget the other 4, but they literally do not use them because they feel like those foods mess with the peaceful energy needed for proper meditation.
Yeah, and I think it's like they excite the senses too much to the point that it creates a sort of craving rather than an intentional desire to do what you're doing, sort of a thing. I cook with garlic.
Yeah, I'm quite emphatically not Zen. I use a lot of garlic.
But also, she's like my favorite person that I've seen on Netflix that I can think of.
I think that was my favorite
great.
episode of Chef's Table. And out of any episode, that's the one that I would recommend people go watch. I also personally love the ramen episode. I understand why he's not really your kind of guy.
Oh, I'm sure he's fine, you know.
Ivan Ramen's episode was very cool.
I've just got my vibes that speak to me.
Yeah, and she's definitely your vibe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I guess in my mind, like apart from the lower caffeine content, it's just a drink that has so many different varieties that it has a huge potential to expand your palate. And something I talked about in my video on breaking bad habits was when I was trying to break my addiction to energy drinks, I tried to ask myself, like, what is the reward I'm getting from the energy drink? Because it's kind of like Charles Duhigg points out in Power of Habit. There's like that cue and that craving that leads to a specific routine of behavior that leads to a reward. And you have to isolate what exactly is the reward. With an energy drink, it could be energy, it could be the taste, or it could be the fact that it's just like a fun drink that sort of breaks up the monotony of your studying or whatever it is you're doing. So I kind of identified that was the main reason, because I would have to go to the library in college. I would have a lot of studying to do or a lot of work. And I'd think, all right, to make this a little bit more fun, I'm going to grab a NOS or I'm going to grab a Monster, and just that'll be, a little bit better than having nothing or having boring old water. So I decided to replace that with coffee, and then eventually I tried replacing it with tea. Now, I haven't gotten into it as much as you have, but a little bit. Or the LaCroix drinks as well.
Yeah, sparkling water's nice too.
I mean, the other thing that was, so in that line of thinking, when it comes to drinks that are interesting in some way, that aren't just boring old water, you don't have a ton of options that aren't either unhealthy in some way or expensive. So, like, a latte is expensive. And a lot of people are lactose intolerant, so they can't drink milk all day. Obviously, all forms of soda are bad for you. So those are like a treat. They should be thought of as a dessert, not a drink that you have all day long.
Yeah, I drink one spoonful of Mountain Dew every morning with breakfast.
One spoonful. So really that leaves like regular coffee, water, tea, and then things like kombucha and probiotic drinks.
Yeah, when kombucha is actually also tea.
Oh, yeah, kombucha. We should talk about that then.
Yeah.
But they're like, you could probably see those Kavita probiotic cleanse drinks at Whole Foods. I think those are actually very, very good, but they are also very expensive. It's like at least $3.50 for a bottle of that. So obviously that's not something that you want to be getting into the habit of drinking all the time, because that's expensive.
Yeah, and you can get tea for a really good price, because tea is like the drink that everyone drinks. You know, it can't be priced out of everybody, because the world drinks it, including poor people. That you can't just make a product that big and not have it accessible.
So tea and coffee both cheap. I haven't done the math on which one is cheaper. And I don't even think I want to go down that road because I think that road leads to like a can of Old Folgers and a bag of Lipton. And I guess if this episode does anything for people, it would be to ignite their curiosity about the higher quality sides of either coffee or tea.
So I think that one of my favorite parts about tea is I love food novelty. So it's like I want to become a connoisseur casually. I'm not like taking classes or nothing, but I can become a connoisseur of tea. I could go. There's this place in Portland that does tea flights, and they'll do a flight of all green teas. And to me, I'm like, ooh, I want to see the slight differences between each of these green teas.
Yeah.
I don't need to differentiate them between the other ones. That's too obvious. And it's kind of like becoming a wine sommelier, but it's less pretentious. Tea is a humble drink.
I don't know, man.
Tea is a very humble drink. I would find it ridiculous.
Medium body.
Yeah. Well,
There's
it's pretty light body.
Very little tannins in here, actually. Like almost none.
Well, like it goes just as deep as that because the
It
big
does.
cultural drinks that humans drink, like beer, wine, tea, coffee, we come up with such varieties that you can go all over the world and have like infinite things to try.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like
human
you said,
culture.
it's one plant, but there are so many different variables that you can exploit and tweak to
Yeah.
make so many different flavor profiles. It's the same with wine. It's at the end of the day, it's fermented grapes for the most part.
Yeah.
But you have all of these different qualities and geographic locations and things that make each different type of wine what it is.
Yeah.
Same thing with all the
It's really
drinks.
cool.
So on that note, let's talk about like differences between white tea, green tea, black tea, because you said they're all the same plant.
Yeah.
So why does green tea? I mean, I know you said that there's the shade and the location and all that kind of stuff, altitude.
Okay, so that'll
What are the main
affect
differences
everything.
here?
The difference is, so all teas can differ based on where you're growing them and
Okay.
whether they're grown in shade and all this stuff. And you'll usually do that for a specific purpose because once the tea is picked, the difference between white, green, black teas and all those is the level of oxidization that happens
Okay.
before they stop it. So a white or a green tea, both of them are on the very low end of oxidization. So pretty quickly, comparatively, after they've been picked, they will be heated or dried or something will be done to them to stop the oxidization process and keep them
Okay.
where they're at. So that's why they will both have a lighter and fresher, sort of grassier feel.
It does like smell and taste grassier, especially green tea.
Yeah, especially green tea, which is my favorite. And see, you'll even get differences there because Japanese green teas are generally they're steamed to stop the oxidization process, but Chinese green teas, at least a lot of them are going to be more pan fired instead.
So
there
they're
are
putting
different
them into an
different-
oven?
They're put just like in a pan, just dry them out on the pan.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I mean, that's not all of them. There are going to always be exceptions because
Yeah.
there are so many teas. But there are even different ways that they use to stop how it oxidizes. And then black teas go on for much longer, so they'll get a bit of a deeper flavor. And then you've got pu'er teas, which are fermented.
That's right.
It's
yeah.
literally fermented. In fact, you'll have like bricks of that sitting
Yeah.
in a cave for a while
Oh,
while it just gets ready.
Okay. I wonder, do they have to scrape mold off of pu'er bricks, kind of like they do with cheese?
I would assume so.
Okay.
Because those have a really good earthy flavor too.
Yeah, I like pu'er a lot.
They're delicious. And
actually, in terms of bagged tea, there is I don't remember the brand. I think is it Numi? Is that a brand of tea?
Yeah.
I think Numi sells a chocolate pu'er that is bagged, but I really like it. So that's a pretty decent one if you can find it at your grocery store or wherever you buy tea.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
Whole Foods usually
because
has it.
there are some brands of bagged tea that are going to be good. So
Yeah.
definitely don't try to be a purist about it and ruin your ability to get into tea. But that's the basic difference is the oxidization levels.
So with black tea, they're just like letting it sit out in the sun before frying it or whatever they do.
I don't know if I could say an answer to that would apply to all of them, but it's allowed more time to do nature-y stuff before they stop it
Gotcha.
with heat.
So there is green, white, black, pu'er, which is the fermented type.
Yeah. And then
As far as tea goes, is there anything else?
Let's see. My
trying to, like,
list,
mentally-
my list is broken. I
Oh, is
think
it?
that's in general
Okay.
the types of tea.
Yeah.
And yeah. And other than that, you'll get different preparations within each class and different mixtures within each class of tea.
Yeah.
Because, like I said earlier, a lot of black teas are mixed with other stuff like bergamot.
What's bergamot? Is it another herb or something?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I don't even know what it looks like.
Yeah.
When I picture it, I pictured an oil that tastes like bergamot.
Oh,
I don't actually know what it looks like. But chai is also mixed with like ginger. And,
Yeah, a bunch of spices. So then if your average tea store you go into, you're going to see a bunch of other things, but those are going to be herbal infusions. So I guess you're going to have your tea sections, and within each section you will have like straight up black tea. You'll have different varietals from different locations, and then you'll have, say, like hot cinnamon black tea is black tea with cinnamon in it, which I've bought before. I tend to like the cinnamon rooibos better. It tastes way cinnamonier. That's not now a word. That's now a word.
Okay.
Cinnamonier.
Fair.
But there's also going to be things like I apparently chamomile, which is not tea. I'm guessing Sleepy Time is also not tea. Then?
That is not tea.
Is Sleepy Time basically chamomile plus mint?
Is
that what it is?
Or
peppermint or something like that?
That sounds like a reasonable combination.
Because when I buy it, I know that chamomile is often thought of as a bedtime tea.
Yeah.
So maybe it has some melatonin or something like that.
So you wouldn't want actual tea in there. You'd get caffeine.
Oh, because all tea is going to have some sort of caffeine, right?
Unless it's been taken out on purpose. So
Okay.
you can get decaffeinated tea.
That's right, of course, yeah.
But tea leaves have caffeine.
Do you happen to know how they do that?
Right now what I'm picturing is little gnomes pulling out caffeine. I have no idea.
That seems scientific.
I don't actually know how they decaffeinate stuff because I've never gotten decaffeinated anything.
All right. Well, we'll just let the audience Google that for themselves.
I
but
assume gnomes.
For now, gnomes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
Decaffeinating gnomes. I mean, hey, I don't think that your life is going to change much if you believe that or not.
If I believe that or I find out what it really is, I don't think it's going to change my day-to-day appreciation of tea.
Sherlock Holmes didn't need to know that the Earth goes around the sun. How's that going to affect my work? Don't need to know it.
Yeah.
Gnomes.
So those are the basic types of teas, and then you'll have your herbal infusions, which are also called tisanes.
Okay.
Which is like French, and there's also an Italian word that's close to that. I don't know who did it first, but that's pretty much it. And then you've got yerba mate. That's a South American drink.
Yeah.
And rooibos is an African drink.
Okay.
And you'll have ones like that are big enough that they get their own name.
Yeah.
But they're not tea still. They're just another plant that we like to throw in water.
So maybe it's just the specific internet circles I run in, but I often see rooibos just kind of grouped in with tea, but then mate almost is considered its own thing. Like there's like a trifecta of like mate, coffee, and tea. Is that just because it's super popular in South America, or because of its supposed health benefits, or
it
or
could
what?
be that, but I would guess that it is because the caffeine levels is somewhat like a mixture of. It's like in between.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very in the middle of coffee and tea kind of drink in flavor to me, as well as caffeine content. So like if you were getting off of a coffee thing, that would be a nice place to start.
I've actually never had mate before.
It's pretty cool.
What does it taste like? Is it sweet at all, or like?
I don't know that I would say it's sweet by itself the way I've had it.
Okay.
But I'm also bad at describing flavors. It really, to me, is closer to coffee flavor-wise than tea, but it's still not quite coffee. It's a weird middle ground.
The only mate I've ever had is like the cans they sell at Whole Foods,
That's
I
definitely
imagine
different
nothing.
because
it tastes like juice.
In its actual normal form, you'll have people like going around all day with it in like a little gourd thing, and they like keep preparing the same stuff all day long.
I've seen the gourds, and the gourds make it feel like the most hipster out of all the drinks. I don't know why. Maybe it's just I'm very unfamiliar
Well, maybe
with
South
that.
America's just really hipster.
Maybe.
That must be it.
It's just a bunch of hipsters down there.
That's got to be it.
The most popular drink. Actually, I wonder if it's the most popular drink down there in terms of like coffee, tea, and mate, or if it's just very popular as opposed to here where it's virtually unknown outside of like health bloggers, it seems.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never really heard people talk much about mate.
Now, coffee definitely has the
So-
stronghold here.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about our herbal infusions. We talked about the different varietals of tea, and there's also rooibos and mate, which are not tea, but they are big enough to kind of have their own names. I think a good way to round this out would be to talk about like what some of our. I guess what I'll ask you is, what are a couple of your absolute favorites, and then what are a couple recommendations for people who are new to tea to get into it? And also, before we do that, we should explain exactly what loose leaf tea is, because I don't think we actually straight up talked about that.
Yeah, it turns out there's a lot
and how you
about.
kind of like do it. So, and I guess I can take this one because I do drink a lot of loose leaf tea. So for the most part, people will go to the store and they'll buy a bag of tea or a box of bags. You know, you put your bag in the tea and the water, and you pull it out at the end. Loose leaf is just that minus the bag. So, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but typically isn't it thought that loose leaf tea is usually going to be fresher or better flavored or just in general better tasting?
Yes, I would say that definitely in most cases that's going to be true because it depends on the bag tea you get. You can get bag tea that's got quality loose leaf put into a bag. Yeah. That's all. That's pretty much the same other than some minor differences. Okay. But a lot of tea bags will have, so you get little chopped up bits of leaves. Mm-hmm. Or you can get, I think it's called fannings, like the last remnants of tea after they process it. So like the cheapest tea leaf dust. Yeah. So in bags, you might get that, and the smaller bits of tea will start to get bitter faster. They will cook faster. Okay. So you won't get the full thing. And loose leaf, if you give it enough room, the leaves will unfurl in the water and release like a full amount of flavor. Mm-hmm. And But that's pretty much it. If you're getting good bagged tea, it'll be like the same.
Okay, so basically, if you're buying like a really cheap brand of tea, it's like the same as ordering
if you
steak
go to
at
a hotel,
restaurant and you're getting like the last like old cut that they have to cook well done to even serve to you, and then you're just like, well, I don't like steak. Yeah, you're not really getting a true example of what a steak should taste like.
Yeah, if you go to a hotel and you don't like the tea that's on top of the little fridge. Yeah. It's not because you don't like tea necessarily.
It's because you don't like bad quality drink.
It's because it's not going to be, they're not going to put gyokuro up there. That would be really not cost effective.
Okay, cool. And actually, you're reminding me, Anna has tea bags that do not have tea in them. And then she will put loose leaf in there. So that's just another way of steeping loose leaf. So basically, you can go to a store. The most popular one that I know of is Teavana. They're in the mall. I would say look and see if your town has a local tea shop first, just because in my experience, Teavana tends to be a little high pressure salesy.
Oh yeah, I feel like they're staring at me if I'm just like, I'm looking at this teapot, and he's like, yeah. You keep looking. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll just be right here.
Yeah, I mean, Teavana, it's not bad. It's just they definitely take a more high pressure approach to tea than any tea shop I've been in. Most tea shops have what you kind of would expect a tea shop to have in terms of vibe. It's a little bit chill. You just kind of go in, they're like playing shakuhachi music or something, and they maybe will say hi and can help you, but they won't be like standing over your shoulder being like, are you going to buy that pot? Are you?
Yeah.
So I don't know, see if there's a tea shop in your town, but if not, there's probably a mall, and that mall probably has a Teavana, and you can go in and other than like the high pressure stuff, which I think is just their policy, most of the time people there are going to be able to tell you like what the most popular varieties are. So just go and try a few. You could try our recommendations that we're going to give in a couple of minutes here, or something that seems interesting to you. And then you're basically just going to have a bag full of tea, and hopefully you're going to have instructions for how to brew it. But if you don't, there are zillions of websites out there which will give you instructions. The tea shop that you and I go to is called Kucha, and their website has instructions for all of their tea varieties, which they have a lot. So if nothing else, you could just go to Kucha's website and see. So and you want to do this because a green tea is you want to do that at 175, right? Ish. For a few minutes.
That's it's a good approximate thing. Yeah. The best green tea I've ever had was actually done at 203 for 30 seconds.
Okay.
So like,
So
there's
really
some
depends.
leeway, but a good average is like 175. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that's because I'm drinking Japanese green tea. Maybe that works better for Chinese green tea, which is the more commonly available one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I guess this is another important thing to point out. Low quality tea is going to give you a bad tasting drink, but also preparing it improperly is going to give you a bad tasting drink, because if you steep it for too long, it will be bitter,
Yeah.
like overly bitter.
Yeah, the right chemicals will start coming out of the leaves.
Yeah. Same as if you open a bottle of wine and then you recork it and you let it sit for like 5 days, it's going to oxidize and it's going to taste really bad. So, I mean, most food has like an optimal way of preparing it. And if you don't do it right, then you're not going to get the right experience. So follow the directions, and there are a zillion different ways to prepare it. If you have a French press sitting around, I think this is actually going to be my recommendation now, because this can also be used for coffee, and a French press is like $10.
Yeah, as long as you're willing to clean it enough to keep the coffee flavor from impacting lighter teas.
Yeah, if you're doing both coffee and tea, then you're going to have to clean out the French press more thoroughly.
I would say that flavor would probably impact a whiter green tea more negatively than it will impact this. It would probably have just been a nice coffee note. I don't think it wouldn't have been a big deal.
Yeah, but I think this might actually be the cheapest way to do loose leaf. I mean, you can also buy little loose leaf steepers and stuff, but I guess in terms of like if you have nothing for good quality coffee and good quality tea right now, I had not thought about this until this episode, but the French press is like perfect for both, because both with coffee grounds or with loose leaf tea leaves, you would just throw your leaves or grounds in there. You'd pour the right amount of water, and then once the steep time is up, you just press the plunger. That's going to push all your grounds or leaves down to the bottom, and you have ready to go tea. Yeah. And if you want to make a lot, you don't have to fill up one mug right away. You could have fancy little tiny glasses like we have, and the rest could just be sitting in there. There's also, if you go to Teavana specifically, but actually I think most tea shops will have this, there's like, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. It's this little thing. There's like a lid at the top. You pour in the water, you pour in your leaves, and then once the steeping is done, you just set it on top of your glass, and it will press this pressure plate that just lets all the water fall out the bottom.
Yeah.
So that works. And then there's plenty of like just little mesh cages or baskets that you can put on top of your mug, or you can get a teapot that has one built in.
Yeah, and you could use those little tea bags,
or the tea bags.
Like you could get like 100 of them for like $3 or $4 if you wanted a super low commitment entry into it. And also, you can just put leaves in your cup and put the water in if you're willing to just filter out leaves as you drink with your lips. This is also a common way of drinking it. It's just I think we're really picky over here.
We are picky.
So we're like, keep those gross leaves that I'm knowingly drinking stuff from out of my mouth.
Well, actually, so if
you can also kind of blow them, to get you can blow the leaves to the other side of the cup, then sip, then blow the leaves to the other side of the cup, then sip.
Now, if you're doing a drink like Rooibos,
we didn't always have fancy weird things.
Rooibos is almost a powder.
I would
probably
get like a bag or something.
Yeah, or a bag. And actually, I just thought about this, an even cheaper way to do it. If you have a common everyday strainer for like ramen noodles or whatever around your house, you could just pour your water with your leaves through that into another mug, and voila.
Yeah.
Tea.
Yeah, that would totally
Basically,
work.
you just need a strainer of some sort that has small enough holes for whatever variety of tea that you bought.
You're also going to need to be able to heat the water the right way. So if you do not have a fancy multi-temperature electric kettle or something, and if you don't even want to buy a regular tea kettle, then it would be possibly easier to start out with black teas or herbal infusions that generally require boiling, because it's easy for you to see if it's boiling.
Yep.
But like I said earlier, some of my favorite green teas have been you make it at 203, 208 degrees Fahrenheit or something for 30 seconds or so. So there are ways to prepare stuff with the hotter water, or you can boil it, let it sit for a few minutes, try it out. The worst thing that happens is like you have a cup of bitter tea and you're like, or it's weak tea and you're like, I'll try that better next time.
Yeah.
But if you start out with the ones that need boiling, then all you need is literally a pot that can boil water.
Yep.
And that's probably the least commitment.
Yeah, that's
for you
so.
To
yeah,
start
I guess
out.
a pot with boiling water and a
they didn't have
mesh.
Electric multi-temperature kettles.
No, they didn't
in China or Japan. In fact, you can be proficient at learning to read the bubbles of a boiling pot of water.
Really? I think, you had told me that at one
Yeah,
point
they
that you could do
used to
that.
call them by like the size in comparison to like an animal's eyes. I can't remember what it was. I think fish eyes was like a certain level,
Okay.
and shrimp eyes was a certain level, and it was like you could kind of guess the temperature it was at.
That'd be a cool skill to learn.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to do it, but I have not because it turns out I didn't need it yet.
Yeah.
I'm kind of busy to learn bubbles all day. You got to sit there and watch them for a while.
I just bought an electric kettle. And I will say, so you can go to Walmart or Target or whatever, and you can buy an electric kettle. The cheap ones do not have settings for temperatures. They will literally just boil it. One step up in price will get you one where you have different temperature settings. What I will tell you on that note is that I have tried many, and many break after a few months. And I think it's just because the cheap heating elements they put in the heating base, they just eventually short out. There's a specific one that I have. I don't remember the brand. I can probably put it in the show notes, but it has a gooseneck instead of just a spout. That one has lasted me, I think, over a year at this point. And all the other ones I've owned in the past have broken on me before a year. So, I mean, it ends up being like $50 every time it breaks. So I want one that doesn't break. So that's why I bought that one.
It turns out those things are actually doing a pretty difficult job. So when
heating
they try to make it
takes a lot
really
of energy.
cheap, then it's just not going to last forever.
But the problem is, like, even the really, like, more than $100 ones, I've read the reviews and people have said, like, even these ones break.
Yeah,
so
it's hard to heat water in 30 seconds, you know?
I don't know. Maybe, like, the stovetop is the most tried and true way to do it. And you can even buy a tea kettle that just goes on top of your stove. And that way you can easily pour it and it will whistle when it's boiling. So if you don't care about temperature or you want to learn to read the bubbles and learn about fish's eyes.
I have a Japanese tea kettle because I want to learn to read the bubbles. I'll save that for when I've got a free week to learn about bubbles.
Okay, so to wrap this up, 2 of your favorite teas and then 2 that you think are great introductory teas for noobs.
My favorite tea genre is Japanese green tea, so my 2 favorites are going to be Hojicha, which is roasted. It's got a nice sweetness to it, and Genmai cha, which is sencha, regular green tea from Japan, mixed with toasted and or roasted, I don't remember which, who cares, rice, like popped rice kernels. So you'll get kind of a nutty flavor coming through there. I like those the best.
I love the smell of those ones.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good as well. They're not my favorites, but I love how they smell.
And for recommendations, so if you're the kind of person who's been drinking coffee, and if you've been drinking coffee with, in latte form with milk and stuff like that, then it may be a good stepping stone for you to start with a black tea or an oolong or something and maybe mix it with milk and a sweetener.
Yep.
Go ahead and put in a sweetener because if you've been coming from soda, the chances that you're going to put that much sugar into it are almost, you'll know. You know, when, I've put like 10 teaspoons of sugar, you need to stop. But
you need to not get to that point.
As long as you're not being unreasonable, you can put a little sweetener in there and it's going to be a huge jump from what you may have been drinking before. And I would say that another thing is, let's see, what would be another thing? If you're into...
Well, you said a black tea, but you didn't... I mean, are you just like telling them to go to the store and get black tea straight up?
You know what? Chai.
Okay.
Chai is a really good one. The spice is nice on that.
Okay.
But mixed with milk and sweetener. And then, actually, I do think that the milk oolong, if you can find a good one, it was surprisingly creamy. It was so creamy that when I drank it, I was like, wait, what? I thought this didn't have milk. I'm really confused right now.
It's really creamy,
Like, it's really good, and it's a really smooth flavor. And the other stuff, I love all of it, but those are the 2 that are going to be most similar to what somebody who hasn't been drinking tea already may be drinking. So it's a good stepping stone.
Cool. So my 2 favorites, I mean, I have a lot. I guess like the ones I'm going to say as beginner teas are also some of my favorites because I'm not like you. I don't actually like the green teas very much. My 2 favorites are Lapsang Souchong.
Oh, Cuppo fish.
We like to call Cuppo fish on this podcast. It is a smoked black tea that smells like smoked salmon. I would not say that it is a beginner tea, but I love it, and I love it with a little bit of milk or cream. So that's a very good one. And then not tea, but my favorite like drink in this category is the hot cinnamon rooibos. You can also get hot cinnamon black tea. I've found that the rooibos has a stronger taste to it. So I like that. I like this really strong taste. In terms of beginner ones, I'm going to try to recommend some that like anybody could just go to the store and buy, because not everyone's going to have a Teavana or a local tea shop that they can just easily go to and buy some like hipster, loose leaf stuff. So English or Irish breakfast tea. Those are two very good varietals of black tea that work really well with milk and sugar. So I often have those for breakfast in the morning. I like Irish breakfast better. It's a little stronger in my opinion, but I think that English breakfast is more popular. You're going to find that at Starbucks, at Panera, anything really.
Yeah.
There's also like Earl Grey and Lady Grey. Those are both, I believe, black teas that are pretty good.
Are they the same? Just
I
different
think they
genders, or are they actually a different
I
formula?
think they are somewhat
Never
different.
heard of Lady Grey.
I don't know. I see Lady Grey at the store sometimes. I don't know enough about tea to know how different they are.
Okay.
I don't even know if I've had Lady Grey. I've just seen it before.
That's cool.
But there's a bunch of those kinds of things. And then, let's see here. I really love that chocolate pu'er, which comes in bags, and I also put milk in that. I put milk in a lot of things. And then the other one I'm going to recommend is either chamomile or sleepy time. So both of those are not tea. They are herbal infusions, but they're a great like before bed drink. Basically every single night I make either chamomile or sleepy time. And if it's chamomile, I personally like to put honey in mine.
Yeah.
Now you can buy honey chamomile, but Anna the other night, or I think it was a few weeks ago, we were at the store and I was about to buy some honey chamomile and she was like, "Why don't you just buy chamomile and put honey in it?" And I went, "Oh, actually, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That would be a higher quality ingredient because I'm literally putting real honey in there." So now I do that. So basically every night we do one or the other. I think there's actually a slight bit of melatonin or something in there in both of those types of, herbal infusion. So they can kind of get you into that ready for sleep state a little bit. But they're not strong enough to build any sort of, I think, dependence like a sleeping medication would. So it's just like a nice calming before bed drink.
Yeah.
So try those out. Try out the Irish breakfast and the Lady Grey or the Earl Grey. And I think other than that, whatever looks cool at the store, try it out. Sometimes you're not going to like it. Sometimes you are.
Yep.
I don't know. I've gotten a bunch of... Oh, you know what was really good? That root beer rooibos.
Oh, that was an interesting one.
Yeah. And it was like, that's going to taste horrible. But when you think about it, like root beer is just soda with specific spices and herbs that give it that root beer
it's
taste.
just a sparkling, sugary herbal infusion. Kinda.
Well, obviously the root beer rooibos is not soda. It's just everything else that makes root beer.
Root beer is just an herbal infusion. That's all.
It's just an herbal infusion or a soda herbal infusion. So you just take it without the soda and the million grams of sugar.
If you mixed it with sparkling water, maybe it would be pretty similar.
I kind of want to try that.
If you make
now.
that, put some sparkling water in there that isn't flavored, and have you now made unsweetened and better for you root beer?
So here's a good question: can you cold steep tea or herbal infusions? Because I know you can make iced tea.
You would not want to cold steep them. You can make iced tea out of all of them. You're going to want to put like 50 to 100% more tea than you were going to.
Okay.
So 1.5 to 2 times the tea, and then
at the correct temperature first.
Yeah, and then ice it.
Okay, so
because you need the heat to bring out the chemicals.
Gotcha. Okay, so if we wanted to do our little root beer experiment, we would need to make the rooibos normally, and then pour in a bunch of really cold sparkling water,
and then
All right,
that sounds interesting. Actually,
I'm down to try this. Actually, yeah, cool. Well, is this episode 207? I believe.
Yes.
I think it is. Cool. All right. Well, we're going to have a bunch of resources in the show notes for this episode. So you can go to cigpodcast.com/207. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find the show notes link in the description down below as always. So check that out if you are looking for any of the resources we mentioned, like Kucha's website with all the brewing instructions or anything else we happen to talk about. I can't remember the entire episode right now. But that's what our show notes guy is for, and he does a great job. So check out those show notes. If you have questions, YouTube comments are probably the best place to leave them. So if you haven't checked out the YouTube channel for this podcast yet, and you're just listening to it on Spotify or iTunes or what have you, you may want to check it out. Obviously, you don't have to watch it there, and we do our best to not put a bunch of stuff in the video that's exclusive to video.
But
it's a fun place to hang out, and it is probably my favorite place to go gather questions and comments for future episodes. So let us know what you think. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Tom Frankly, or you can follow Martin by, I don't know, going back to the 1800s and shaking his hand or something like that.
I got a Twitter. I see it sometimes.
He does have a Twitter, yeah.
I check it. Sometimes I respond to stuff, but I don't really post more than once every season.
Yes. Follow Martin on Twitter if you have questions for him, not for like insightful tweets, because they come like once every 3 months, it seems.
Yeah.
I go to your Twitter sometimes and I'm like, man, you haven't tweeted in like 6 months. And then I go to replies tab and there's a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
So
I'll respond to
use
stuff
it.
if I have the time. I just don't. What do I have that I should share? I don't care if people know what I'm doing.
Yeah. I don't know. I like social media, but not everyone has to like it.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we all just all be tweeting all day.
that's true.
That would be a boring world. So thank you guys so much for listening and hanging out with us. If you want to find our favorite resources for improving your life as a student, ranging from productivity apps to the books we recommend to things that you should pack for your dorm or for going back to school, you can check out all of that stuff over at collegeinfogeek.com/resources. And otherwise, we will see you in next week's episode. Stay cute.